come on in. Be sure to drop your name, where you are joining from, your due date, and tell me, where you are during this stage of pregnancy. I am so excited to be live with you. It's certainly been a while, but I always look forward to just showing up and hopefully offering value to you when it comes to pregnancy, birth, postpartum. I love to jump right in, answer questions. If you've joined my live before, you know they are like miniature master classes because I really want to make sure that you walk away with something today that you perhaps, did not have before or did not know before. Now, let me say this before we jump in. My name is Stephanie, and if you're here watching the replay, I just want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. Again, put your name in the comments, where you're joining from, what your due date is. I am Stephanie, a certified doula and lactation consultant. I specialize in helping first-time moms prepare for a confident and smooth birth and postpartum. That's super important to me. Why? Because transitioning into motherhood is one of the toughest things that you will have to do, both physically and mentally as a mom. And so if I can make that process a little bit better, a little bit easier, then that is what I truly am here to do. I am really excited because I'm going to be talking today about why birth is so doggone scary. I just put out a poll, and the number one thing, at least so far, the response has been that my first-time moms are nervous. They are nervous. I think some of the options was nervous, overwhelmed, scared, and out of all of them, nervous. And so after today, you're definitely going to hopefully feel more confident because I have a whole layout. Now, if you've not been here before, you may just be expecting some, off the cuff type of chit chat. And those are good. Those are okay. But I come with the heavy hitting information because I desperately want you to feel prepared going into your birth so that you could feel confident moving forward. Now, let me say this, and I didn't really prepare for this particular part, but it's so relevant, it's so current. I actually will probably be doing another live where I talk about it in detail. And that is the current report card that we as the United States have recently gotten when it comes to maternal care and infant care. Y'all, we rank at a D+. That is what our report card was for maternal and infant care. That is alarming when you talk about lives being affected, when you talk about all of the people that are affected, when you have births that... Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what happened, you guys. Okay, I think we are good to go. But I was just simply talking about our report card here in the United States that was recently released and how we got a D+. So that really put a charge on me as a childbirth educator and expert in this space to really push the needle forward as much as I could possibly do when it comes to labor, birth, postpartum, breastfeeding. It really lit a fire with me to really try and push it forward, to do better, so that we can raise the bar and get that D plus up to an A. We're talking about mothers and babies. And we're talking about being in the United States, which is a leading country with all sorts of technology. The best we can do is a D plus for maternal infant health. Come on, we can do better. We can do better. And for me, it starts here right now. Even like with this live, hopefully by the time I'm done, you will be able to walk away with some gems to really help you feel confident and less nervous moving into birth. Now, when I started before, I think I got disconnected. So just in case you are joining, my name is Stephanie Poole. I am a certified lactation consultant and doula. I specialize in helping first-time moms with labor, birth, postpartum, and breastfeeding, especially as they are transitioning into motherhood. That's one of the toughest transitions that you will have. And so I'm here to hopefully make that transition a lot easier for you. Anything I can do to do that really brings me joy. Now, with that being said, if you are watching and tuning in, please tell me where you're watching from. Tell me your due date. I always love to connect with my moms. A lot of people probably think that it's not me in the comments, but under my videos, I'm a real person and I am typing away, responding to those comments. So I love chit-chatting with you. Any questions you have, please put them in the comments so that we can address those a little bit later. All right, now without further ado, you guys know I like to be respectful of your time and to jump right in. I'm going to be looking over to the side because I have a ton of notes. I don't want to miss anything. Again, if you have questions, make sure you put them towards in the comments and I'll go back and read them towards the end. Maybe we'll have time for a quick Q&A. Ooh, I love that. We have South Carolina. We have hola. We have ATL. Wow. I love it. I love it. I love it. Hello, hello, hello. It's so good to like be on live and just talk with you guys because I'm always just posting videos and I try to stay active in the comments, but it's nice to actually like talk to my moms. Okay, so let's jump in and talk about like why is birth so scary in the first place? Now, I think we should just be honest, right? And start from the beginning and just say, you guys are not short on information. If I had to guess, I would likely say that, you know, you're getting information from your mom, right? You're getting information from your cousin or your best friend or a coworker. You're getting information from your providers, right? And we can't leave out Google. You're getting information from Google as well, right? So there's no shortage of information. But the reason why I'm here is because I believe that it's important to have context with information. That makes all the difference. Now, you might say, well, could I just get it from those places? Yes, you potentially could, but oftentimes I know what I've run into with a lot of my clients, my private doula clients, is that, well, some of the information is a little outdated if you're going by what your mom is recommending for birth, right? Because things have definitely changed, especially if you're birthing in a hospital and things like that. So they're a little bit removed from this season of life that you're in right now. And when it comes to your provider, I just said this. Let me pause and say, if you're not on my email list, you need to be, because I just sent a email where I talked about how the provider's job, their responsibility is not to really walk you through the nuances of birth. That's not really what they're there for. They probably would, right, if time really allotted for it. But in most cases, your provider actually has other patients that they're seeing, right? Number one. And number two, their number one priority is your safety and the safety of your baby medically. That is what their number one priority is. So they are concerned with your labs, they're concerned with your blood work, your urine sample, they're concerned with the baby's heartbeat, they're concerned, with your level of amniotic fluid, all the medical stuff, right? And so it's important to have that information that we talked about, the wealth of information, but you got to be able to have it from a reliable source. And previously that would have been a provider, but the providers are usually busy with all sorts of medical things. And so that's why it's important that you showed up tonight, that you are interested in learning this, because this is where we're going to talk about the nuances that you likely may not be getting from your provider or from the people that are a bit removed from this season in your life. So you will definitely be able to take away at least one thing. Just one takeaway is valuable. Now, with that being said, I'm going to start by just talking about like where that nervousness and that frustration and being scared of birth comes from. It comes from just simply the point of you're a first-time mom, so you don't know what you don't know, right? And anything you don't know, you feel nervous about because you've never done it before, because you've never experienced it before, because you've heard all the stories, right? We talked about your cousin who is likely sharing the 20-hour labor, right, that she went through. And so there's a lot of stories, a lot of information, but you've never experienced it personally for yourself. So you don't know, like, I want to get ready, I want to prepare for birth, but I don't even know really where to start. And all of that is causing that nervousness, that anxiousness, that feeling of overwhelm, right? It's fine. We're going to jump into it. I have a 3-part framework here, and I keep looking over because I don't want to miss a bit of it. In fact, I want you to make sure that you either have a notepad or perhaps you have your notes app open so that you can go back and really take notes, kind of pull something away from it. Maybe you'll even come back to this live and rewatch it. If you need to, please save it because we're going to get into a 3-part framework that will really help take birth from being scary to manageable. That's the goal, to get you over to manageable by the end of this live. Okay, so number one of the 3-part framework is simply knowing what's happening. Remember, just a few seconds ago, I talked about, a lot of that anxiety, a lot of that fear around birth is simply because you don't know. You've never experienced it. So being in the room like right now, how you are, is going to help you get the information that you need so you can try and prepare as best as you can. Here are some things that I want you to really look into and really try to understand. This is going to bring that fear factor down a bit, right? This is part 1 of bringing it down. Number 1, you need to know and understand what contractions feel like. That's a big thing that I get from first-time moms who've never experienced it, and they hear all these stories, but they don't really know what that means, right? So knowing what contractions feel like, knowing what's normal, right, and what's not, knowing the process of birth, and understanding what your body is doing at different stages. Those are all things that you really want to tune into because it's going to help. The more you know about those specific things, the more you will find you're less and less fearful, right? You'll gain more and more confidence with it. All right? Number two is knowing what to do. So we talked about knowing what you need to know, what's happening, but you also need to know what to do. And by that, what I mean is knowing what to do in labor. How are you breathing, right? How are you continuing to deal with pain management? How are you continuing to work so that labor is progressing? You don't want it to stall, right? You want to keep baby continuously coming down, down, down until you're able to push and the baby is out. How are you pushing? Right? If you've looked at a few videos on my channel, I tried to really give some of that information about the importance of knowing how to push. So after we're done here, you can always reference some videos there as well. But these are all things that once you tune into, I'm trying to give you some key areas for you to focus on when you are trying to get ready for birth, especially if this is your very first time. These are the things that, number one, I go over with my private clients with, but then also things that I myself wish someone would have helped me with, right? Especially my first time around. So knowing what's happening is number one, and then knowing what to do, right, during these different stages of labor, how to push, how to breathe, all that kind of stuff is super important. That's part two. And the third one, the third part to the framework is building confidence before labor begins. Now, let me pause a minute and express how important it is for you to learn all this stuff before you need to have it. Because there is no learning when the contractions kick in, right? You kind of have to have that game plan solid so that it becomes like muscle memory, is what I say. Practice it over and over again. Once you actually know what's happening, right? And you know what to do, then you need to practice those things to the point where it becomes muscle memory so that when your water breaks, when you are induced, when that first contraction hits, whatever the scenario is, right? You have a game plan and you have practiced it to the point where it is muscle memory. Your breathing, muscle memory, right? Your positions, what feels good, knowing how to transition from position to position, muscle memory, okay? Those are all things that are super important. Practicing it, understanding it, and getting your go-tos. Because once you practice it, right? Once you're understanding, okay, this is how things are going to go, and here are some things I can do. And then once you start practicing it, you'll see what feels good to you and what doesn't. Every mom is different, right? And so on all fours, hands and knees, might be a great way for someone to labor, but it may not be the best position for you. You may like to labor on your side, right? Or sitting up on a birthing ball. The only way you'll know is to practice these things before you actually go into labor, before you need it. Now, let me say this, a lot of what we hear about as far as people's experience of birth is highly, highly affected based on how prepared they were before labor began. How much of a plan was in place before labor began. That is super important because when you are, progressively having those contractions coming back to back, closer and closer together, there will come a point when you won't even be able to like really speak or give instructions. It will get so intense, right? As labor progresses, not in the beginning, because it's a progression. But it will get so intense that speaking and trying to figure all of that stuff out, like at the height of it, girl, that is not it. That is not it. We're not doing that this year. We're not doing that with this birth. I want you to go in. I want you to be confident. And I really want you to have a sense of what feels good to you before you actually need to. Okay. Also, trying it out and having these things as far as muscle memory going, I just spoke about that. Knowing it so good that things just come to you is going to allow you to switch it up when you need to, right? Because what worked in the first part of labor, as your contractions get more intense, you may need to switch it up. You may need to say, okay, these contractions are a bit more intense. Laying on my side is not working because now I'm starting to have lower back pain. The baby's coming down a little bit more. It's time for me to shift into, sitting on a birthing ball or leaning forward or swaying with, my partner. Those are all things that I can say off the top of my head because I've done, I've literally been there and helped do those positions with clients. The more you do it, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. Muscle memory. Okay? All right. Now, I think it's also important for us to just kind of do one little exercise where I give you two things that you can do tonight to really lower your birth anxiety, because that's what we're talking about, that overwhelming feeling of being, just scared of birth. Am I going to be able to do it? Am I going to be able to handle the contractions? What if I freeze up? What's going to happen? All of that, like fog that's in your mind, right? That you're dealing with. The first thing I want you to do is to really name the fear. Name it, call it out. You know what I mean? Write it down. As a matter of fact, let me just make sure I don't miss anything. I want you to write it down. Write exactly what your fear is, what you're scared of. So for instance, you might write that I'm scared of what will happen during labor. I'm scared of not breathing right, or I'm scared of not pushing right, or I'm scared of tearing, or I'm scared of, freezing up. I want you to name it and to be specific. Be specific. That's literally in my notes. I want you to be specific because you can't fight fog, but you can fight a definite thought, right? If it's just a bunch of stuff that's jumbled up in your brain, you're fighting against all this fear, but you haven't really named it. You don't even really know where it's stemming from or what's causing you so much pain, right? But when you name it, you can actually go in and say, okay, I feel like I'm really, nervous about my breathing or knowing my positions. Well, then, that's where I need to spend some time. That's where I need to really prepare. Okay? Part 2 of really reducing that fear tonight is I want you to do the what would I do if? So I want you to play it all the way out in your head. This is important. Every fear that you listed in step 1, I want you to really play out. Okay, so what happens if that happens? Why? Because a lot of times the fear that we have in our minds actually is a lot bigger than what happens if it just plays out. What happens if it just plays out? Right? So doing those two things, naming that fear, allowing it to be specific, and then actually playing it out. What happens if I freeze up? Well, I have a birth partner there. I have my support person there. I have my doula there. They are there and they will support me so that once they notice that I'm freezing up, we have a few things worked out that will help to calm me down and get me back into the zone. So now all of that anxiety, all of that fear around freezing up, you kind of hit it head on because you've already played out the scenario. What if that does happen? Well, now I have a backup plan. I have something in mind that I'm thinking about doing that I feel like would work. And so now all of that overwhelm, you've taken control of it. You've taken control of it. And that, my friend, is the epitome of having a confident, smooth birth. That's it. That is it. Taking control, having that clarity, right? All of that helps to reduce fear, So hopefully, like I said, doing those two things and knowing that framework of where to focus your time, what things that you should know, giving you a starting point of, how to get started preparing for birth. And I'm not just talking about the hospital bag. I'm like the next person. I think it's fun to pack the bag. I think it's fun to practice, heading off to the hospital and whatnot. But having a positive birth experience goes far beyond what you pack in a bag. It is what you know. It is how you handle what is going on. It is having a strategy. A birth plan is not something that is set. It is a strategy that you use and you turn it and twist it for whatever outcome you need. That's why for my clients, I always prepare them for no matter what situation pops off. We're going to be ready. We're going to be ready. That is super important when you're preparing for birth. Now, with that being said, if you are, wanting more hands-on, if you want the structured blueprint that I use with my private clients, y'all, it will be on sale for Black Friday. And for most of you, I rarely put it on sale. But you have to be on my wait list to, number one, get early access. And number two, to get the discounts. And the reason why early access is super important is because I will also, in addition to having my blueprint that I specifically use with private clients, right? And I'm just laughing because maybe about 2-3 weeks ago, I just had my final birth of the year, and then I'm taking the rest of the year off to regroup and to do a few things and just enjoy family and the holidays. Y'all, it's nothing like it. That birth, I wish that mom was here to tell you how amazing that birth went. I literally came home and I was talking to my husband about how amazing her birth went. We were prepared. We practiced. We had things lined up for what if. She had some preferences about not wanting a C-section. And so it was really a priority for us. That was a non-negotiable. She's like, I don't want a C-section, right? And there's no guarantees. There's no way to guarantee it, but you can position yourself that the probability of having one goes way down when you're prepared. And so we focused on that. And when the time came, it was absolutely amazing. She labored for a few hours. And then once she hit that active stage, literally she pushed, I think 3 rounds of pushing, and baby boy was here. That is the power of knowing your options, knowing how to advocate for yourself, knowing what to expect, and really practicing it beforehand, having a game plan, having a strategy going in of what your priorities are. And I'm not just talking about like dimming the lights and lighting candles. That's important too, you know, to help you feel relaxed and to help you feel safe, right? So that your body can naturally do what it's supposed to do. But I'm talking about really having a game plan and a strategy that if she does not want to have a C-section, it's important for us to continue to keep this labor progressing. So we had positions that were ready, even though she opted for an epidural. She wasn't sure if she was going to get the epidural going in, but she was open to it. And so we got there and she, started laboring, right? And it became more and more intense. And mind you, this is a mom that had previously birthed without pain medicine. So it's not that she wasn't capable of doing it, but this time around, she felt like, I need help, right? And so even though she opted for an epidural, which can sometimes slow the progress, right? It can slow things down a bit and you have to try and get that momentum going. But we never lost momentum. We were still changing positions, even with an epidural, and we were able to keep things progressing. Literally, this was one of the shortest labors that I have had in a while. That's how well it went. And a lot of it is due to her movement while she was pregnant, going into it. Prep is important. I cannot stress it enough. Prep is important. Everything you do leading up to labor when it starts is going to either push you closer towards having a smoother birth, or it could potentially push you further away. And so I am super excited to be offering that same system to you for Black Friday. If you are not on my email list, then I suggest you get on for early access. Also, because I will be opening up a few slots for those one-on-ones. Now, I mentioned this before. I don't do one-on-ones except for with my private clients. That's it. I don't offer it on my website. I just don't do it. I do live events and I've had people to ask there. I don't do it. My private clients are usually enough to consume me for consultations, so I usually don't offer it. But I wanted to really do something different this year. And I really wanted to serve value. I mentioned at the beginning of the live that the United States just had a report card. It was on GMA the other morning, and I happened to catch the segment for maternal infant health. Y'all, we got a D+. We can do better. We can do better. We need to take better care of our moms and our babies. And so this is definitely part of my charge to do that, which is to open up a few slots to do some labor prep consultations so that we can do individual plans together and really help you to get ready for birth. So if that is something that you need help with, or that you potentially could see yourself benefiting from, then you need to be on my email list, because when I say it's not a lot, it's not a lot. I mean, but I'm only one person, and I believe in operating in integrity. So I don't want to put more out there than what I can actually handle and deliver on. And so those slots, I don't know if they'll make it to the public day of the sale, right? They could potentially go with the email list. I don't know. But they will be there. It will be an option. And if that's something that you're interested in, then you definitely need to be on my list to get first dibs. Let me take a quick look just to see. I'm sure I remember. Look, let me take my glasses off just to be able in front of me in silence. Yeah, she was so brave and said, oh, I love that. And such a positive example for me. Her experience was nothing like the, right? It is not, most times it is not. Actually, let me say this, because I've worked on labor and delivery. I'm so glad you brought that up, Lady V. First of all, shout out to you, because you always show up in the comments and chat back and forth. And so, hello, and thank you for being on tonight. But you bring up such a good point that it is not like, TV and movie, right? Where you have all the dramatics and the water breaks and everybody's rushing and trying to find, the bag and to pack the car and then speeding off. Most births do not happen that way. And what I was going to say is I have worked on labor and delivery. I've attended countless births at this point. And it's so funny that when you go on labor and delivery, I can probably count how many times I've actually heard chaos. It is not a bunch of women that you hear pushing and yelling and, all that kind of stuff. It's just not that way. Even the birth that I just did that I was telling you about, we were there. It happened maybe, I think we started at about 2 a.m. maybe. So it's the middle of the night and, it was quiet. You could barely hear anyone. Every now and again, I could hear maybe a mom make a moan or a groan or something, but for the most part, a lot of women it's intense, and you really have to focus that energy. If you are, unhinged at that point, then you are losing that control, and losing control really causes you to feel the pain more than you would if you were able to really harness it and focus on that surge as it's happening. So I like that you brought that up, because that is so true. Like it's not, it's often not what you think it is on the TV. Having a C-section, yeah. I worried myself for a medical option I needed. Yes, yes, yes. It is. It is. And I think, I think the power, it goes back to what you were saying. Everyone situation and birth scenario is different. It really is. What happens with mom and her body, and what happens with baby and their physical health as the baby is being born is so different. Even though the birth process is what it is, right? It is what it is. But there's so many nuances to birth that every birth story is uniquely different. And sometimes you're able to reach the goal that you were hoping for. Sometimes you're not. And I learned very quickly in this industry that you have to be prepared no matter what, because we have an idea, right? You always want to prepare for the best. You always want to prepare for whatever is considered ideal for that mom and for that baby. But you got to be prepared that no matter what, like, we're ready. We are ready for this. And let me tell you the power of that, by the way. So I've had other births, right, where there were some things to happen right towards the end. I'm thinking specifically about a mom who ended up having preeclampsia. So, she had some high blood pressure going on, and she really wanted to have a very, natural birth. And up until that point, everything was fine, right? So this was a realistic expectation for her because we didn't know that it was going to take that turn. But here's the power of being prepared no matter what. After, right? After she had the baby and she did need a C-section for her health. Baby was tolerating it fine, but that could have changed very quickly if it had progressed, right? Here's the power of being prepared. Even though she had to make a hard pivot, right, and end up having a C-section, because we were ready, because she was informed and the doctors weren't talking over her head, we were prepared, we had talked about it, we understood what that would entail. I was so surprised at the end because I always do a wrap up. And I'm asking questions, how did this feel for you? What was this experience like? And I was prepared and embracing myself, right, to really talk to her about putting a positive spin on it. And what shocked me the most is that she told me how great the experience was. And it kind of perplexed me because I was like, I wasn't expecting that because she really wanted to have, she didn't want a C-section. But the reason why she still looked at it as a positive birth experience was because she was prepared for that too. So at the end, being prepared, understanding what, could potentially happen with the C-section and how those are handled, and knowing the terminology and understanding all of that goes along with it, that to her was like, that was the best case scenario for this situation that we had to make a pivot on. And I mean, we had minutes to make that decision. So my point in bringing that up is just simply to say that is the power of being prepared no matter what. No matter what. No matter what. Let me see. I'm going into therapy here soon. Addressed to me, of course. Oh, oops. It's always somebody, right? We wish you the best on therapy. With that being said, you guys, it is late. I certainly don't want to take up any more of your time than what we've already done here. I think this is a good place to pause it until tomorrow. So I will be going live tomorrow. Y'all, I'm super excited. It will be let me look, the #1 reason first-time moms panic during labor and how to avoid it. So you guys know, I don't just talk about the problem. We're going to give you some solutions like we did tonight. If you have questions, definitely reach out, leave them in the comments underneath this video, and then I'll try to wrap that into tomorrow's session. But you can meet me here the same time, same place tomorrow. And yeah, let's go over how to handle that panic, right? What you can do when you're in the thick of labor and how to handle that. By the end of this, I really hope you have some takeaways on what you can do to implement just one thing. We got to bring our report card up, you guys. The United States is not serving us well. Even though we have this advanced medical system, right? We can't rely on that. The report is out. We got a D+, and that means it's left to us. It's left to us in the birth industry to do better with our teaching and education. And it is important that we are teaching our moms how to advocate for themselves and how to prep for birth, because you cannot rely on someone else to take you through those nuances that make a difference in whether you have a confident birth or not, right? These things really make a difference on how you have your birth experience. And I'll say this and then we can hop off. One of the things I always say is that, you don't have to let birth happen to you. Allow it to happen through you. Let me say it again. You don't have to let birth just happen to you. Like, I'm just going to wing it. No, baby, we're not winging it. I want it to, birth is such a beautiful experience that when it is done to the best of your ability, you become a vessel. Like it happens through you. It is literally a miracle that happens through you. You grow a whole human and you bring them earthside. That is what I want for you. That is what I want for you. So, 36 weeks. Wow. Congratulations. Congratulations. I'm so excited. I can celebrate babies every day, all day. It's literally like, it's what I do. It is what I do. Thank you so much, you guys. I got to go check on pies. I am trying to prep for Thanksgiving. So that is on my agenda. And I have 2 pies downstairs. I just took out the oven before I came up because I didn't want to. I didn't want them to burn. So I am headed down to finish my Thanksgiving prep. I will see you back here tomorrow. Same time, same place. Until then, happy birthday, you guys.